Imagine this for a moment. It's late afternoon, the sun is already sliding toward the horizon, your phone screen is glowing in your hand, and somewhere in the back of your mind there is a quiet but persistent whisper saying, "You were supposed to start hours ago," and that whisper grows louder with every scroll, every refresh, every promise of, just 5 more minutes, until it turns into a heavy pressure in your chest, a mix of guilt, fear, and exhaustion, and this is where our story begins. Not in a place of laziness or lack of ambition, but in the very human space where procrastination lives for people all over the world. Arjun knew this space well. He wasn't lazy. In fact, he cared deeply. He had goals, dreams, and a long list of things he wanted to achieve. Yet every day followed the same painful pattern. He would wake up motivated, convinced that today will be different, and by nightfall he would be lying in bed replaying the day in his head, wondering how time slipped through his fingers again. The project was still unfinished. The workout still hadn't happened. The message still wasn't sent. And the worst part wasn't the unfinished task, it was the quiet voice saying, "What's wrong with you?" If this sounds familiar, it's because procrastination speaks the same language everywhere. Different cultures, different schedules, different dreams, but the same inner struggle. One evening, after postponing an important deadline yet again, Arjun sat alone staring at his laptop, not working, not relaxing, just frozen. And that's when something clicked. He realized procrastination wasn't the problem. It was the symptom. The real battle was happening inside his mind. So instead of forcing himself to just do it, he decided to understand why his brain kept pulling him away from action. That decision changed everything, because procrastination is not about poor time management, it's about emotion management. And once Arjun understood that, he began using simple psychology-based hacks that didn't rely on motivation, willpower, or perfection, but on how the human brain actually works. The first shift happened when Arjun stopped asking himself, "Why can't I start?" and replaced it with a gentler question, "What am I avoiding feeling right now?" Because procrastination often isn't about the task itself, it's about the emotion attached to it. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of not being good enough. When Arjun looked honestly at his unfinished work, he realized he wasn't avoiding the task, he was avoiding the discomfort it stirred inside him. And here's the psychology behind it. The brain is wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure, even emotional pain. So when a task triggers anxiety or self-doubt, your brain tries to protect you by pushing you towards something easier, like scrolling, snacking, or daydreaming. The hack wasn't to fight that instinct, but to acknowledge it. Arjun began saying, "I feel uncomfortable, and that's okay," and strangely, the resistance softened. Naming the emotion reduced its grip, because emotions lose power when they are understood rather than suppressed. The second breakthrough came when Arjun stopped thinking in terms of finishing and started thinking in terms of starting badly. For years, his mind told him, if you can't do it perfectly, don't do it at all. That belief kept him stuck. So he tried something radical. He gave himself permission to do the worst possible version of the task. Just 5 messy sentences, just 2 minutes of effort. Just opening the document. And this works because of a psychological principle called activation energy. Starting is the hardest part. Once motion begins, the brain naturally wants to continue. When Arjun lowered the bar, his brain stopped panicking. The task no longer felt like a mountain, it felt like a single step. And once that step was taken, momentum quietly followed. Days later, Arjun noticed something else. His procrastination peaked when tasks felt vague and overwhelming. Work on the project felt endless, shapeless, and heavy. So he applied the third hack, shrinking time instead of tasks. Instead of committing to hours, he committed to 10 minutes. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. This worked because the brain perceives time differently under stress. A large time commitment feels threatening, while a small, defined window feels safe. 10 minutes felt harmless. Non-threatening. almost too easy to refuse. And more often than not, 10 minutes turned into 30, not because Arjun forced himself, but because once the brain feels safe, it becomes cooperative. But procrastination still crept in during moments of low energy, especially when Arjun felt tired or overwhelmed. That's when he discovered the fourth hack: separating identity from action. Instead of thinking, "I am a procrastinator," he shifted to, "I am someone who struggles with starting." That subtle change mattered deeply. Psychology shows that identity-based beliefs shape behavior. When you label yourself negatively, your brain works to confirm that label. But when you separate who you are from what you're experiencing, you create space for change. Arjun stopped attacking himself and started observing himself. And self-compassion didn't make him weaker, it made him more willing to try again. The fifth hack arrived unexpectedly one morning when Arjun noticed how often he waited to feel ready. Motivation, he believed, was supposed to come first, action would follow. But neuroscience says the opposite is true. Motivation is created by action, not before it. So Arjun made a rule: act before you feel ready. One small action, even without motivation. This flipped the script. Instead of waiting for energy, he generated it. Each completed action released a small amount of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, reinforcing progress. Motivation became a result, not a requirement. Still, there were days when distractions felt irresistible. Notifications, noise, endless options pulling his attention apart. That's when Arjun applied the sixth hack: designing friction for distractions and ease for action. He stopped relying on self-control and started relying on environment. Phone in another room. Browser tabs closed. Tools laid out in advance. Psychology calls this choice architecture. When the desired behavior is easier than the distracting one, the brain naturally chooses it. Productivity stopped feeling like a battle of willpower and started feeling like a natural outcome of smart setup. The final and most powerful hack changed how Arjun related to time itself. Instead of judging each day by what he failed to complete, he began ending his day by asking one simple question: what did I move forward today? This shifted his focus from perfection to progress. The brain responds better to progress than pressure. Each small win rewired his self-image from someone who delays to someone who moves forward, even slowly. And slowly, procrastination lost its emotional grip. Months later, Arjun still had moments of delay. He still felt resistance. But it no longer defined him. He understood now that procrastination wasn't a character flaw, it was a signal. A signal to break tasks down, soften self-talk, reduce fear, and create safety for action. And if you're listening to this story and seeing yourself in it, know this: procrastination does not mean you lack discipline or ambition. It means your brain is overwhelmed, uncertain, or afraid. And that means it can be guided, not punished. Imagine what changes when you stop waiting for motivation and start creating it. When you stop blaming yourself and start understanding yourself. When you stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "What does my brain need right now to begin?" That shift alone can change how today unfolds. So here is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. Choose one small action. One imperfect start. 1 minute of movement. Let that be enough for today. And if this story kept you listening because it felt uncomfortably familiar, share it with someone who needs it, leave a comment about which part spoke to you, and remember this powerful truth: you don't need more discipline to beat procrastination, you need understanding, and once you work with your mind instead of against it, getting things done today becomes not just possible, but inevitable.